being selfish. I know that the marital problem I'm going to describe isn't uncommon, but it has a couple of aspects that I haven't heard addressed elsewhere. I'd like to hear some perspectives on the situation. Wife and I have been together 21 years, married 19. 2 girls, ages 15 and 10. A few weeks ago, she confessed to me that she had developed feelings for someone she knows through her work. She works at a hotel that caters to a lot of business travelers. They get a lot of regulars, and she gets to be friends with some of them, gets to know about their families, etc. Nothing unusual there. Wes, I have other unprintable names for him, has been coming in for about a year, and he's been nothing other than a regular guest that she enjoys talking to, but she started developing feelings for him. She is sure, and I tend to agree, that the attraction is mutual. This man is also married, with 2 boys, but says that his marriage has been unhappy. He knows that we are going through a rocky time but doesn't know the details. I know that they haven't been physical. He only comes in for a couple of days every few weeks, and during those times she hasn't been out of my sight other than for work, so I know that any physical contact is extremely unlikely. He lives over 800 miles away. Their communication has been sometimes chatting in the lobby and mostly via text. The text conversations have often been flirty, with him complimenting her outfits. She is very beautiful, both saying things like "I miss you," "been thinking about you," etc. Inappropriate for married people to be doing, but not quite to the level of texting. There were a couple of times that he made what I consider to be flirting, like saying he needed a snuggle buddy and offering her a back rub when she mentioned wrenching a muscle at the gym. To her credit, she recognized those and didn't respond, steering the conversation back to more mundane things. Other conversations have been very mundane. If they had been with anyone else, I wouldn't have cared. Up until now, jealousy and insecurity with her has not been on my list of personal flaws. I've been focused on this guy as an immediate threat, but I know that he didn't cause our root problems, which have been going back to the beginning of our marriage. I'm fully aware that I helped drive the car towards the cliff. We have been talking a lot and identified some core issues. It's these festering issues, combined with the fact that 2 people busy with life have let their marriage go on autopilot for a few years, that allowed the intimacy to die in our relationship. She was emotionally vulnerable, even more than she herself realized, and he just showed up at the right time. Here's what I find unusual about this, and I haven't heard it addressed anywhere else. She's been anything but secretive. She has been extremely upfront and honest about her feelings towards him and her feelings towards me. She shows me their text conversations, and we've had whole discussions trying to analyze what this guy really wants. Does he want a legitimate relationship, an affair, or does he just want a cute female friend to talk to? I know it's entirely possible that she's editing what she shows me, but knowing her personality and knowing that she shows and tells me things that are pretty painful makes me think that's unlikely. It's almost as if I'm married to a pathological truth teller. We get along beautifully for the most part. She and I spend a lot of time together and enjoy each other's company. We're still affectionate. We've identified the core issues in our marriage that led us to where we are. In the course of talking, she has told me that a couple of the issues we had identified have not ended up being quite the stumbling blocks she originally thought. She called me up the other day and apologized for something she did to me early in our marriage that put a wedge between us. She acknowledges that we are closer now than we were a couple of months ago. We made love the other night for the first time since she dropped the bomb. The bonding didn't fix our problems, but she admits that it demolished one of her original claims. When she first dropped the bomb and said that she was considering divorce, she said that she had lost her attraction for me and wasn't sure she could get it back. The other night proved her wrong, at least on that count. Her terminology has changed somewhat too. She at point told me she was in love with the other guy. She's backed off that, and now says that he has some strange hold over her that she doesn't understand. Despite the fact that she has regained her attraction for me and recognizes that we are the closest we have been in years, she is still preoccupied with Wes. She says that she is confused and needs to figure him out. Her feelings for him are intense enough that she openly wonders if he's the man she's meant to be with, despite the fact that he's married. And to be with him, she would have to pack up her entire life and move 800 miles to a state she's never even been to. She does say that she has definite boundaries. She refuses to be a mistress or a friend with benefits with a married man. She only wants a relationship with him if it's open and legitimate, i.e., after she and he are both divorced from their current spouses. On the other hand, she says that it's entirely possible that she doesn't need to be with either one of us. She also holds out the possibility that she and I are meant to stay together. She freely admits that she's pretty much a confused mess. She insists that she needs to meet with him face to face to clear the air and help her sort out her feelings. He's coming back into town in December and they plan to meet for drinks. I've agreed to this. I know conventional wisdom says that people in emotional entanglements should cut off all contact. Knowing her personality, for me to demand that would make her dig in and intensify her feelings for him. I made the judgment call to agree to give her space to communicate with him, subject to a few rules. She never initiates the conversation, and when they do text, she lets me read them afterwards. He does not know that I'm aware of their relationship, although he will find that out when they meet. I'm not too worried about her cheating on me during their meeting. I suppose if she does cheat on me that evening, then I'll be pretty clear about what needs to happen next. Even if he confesses his love for her and promises to leave his wife, she's going to demand a 6-month cooling-off period to give her a chance to work on our relationship and see if he puts his money where his mouth is. She knows better than to make a life decision based on the promises of a married man. I've been applying a modified 180 with her. I wasn't sure that the whole thing was appropriate in this case because all things considered we're getting along so well. I stopped the begging, pleading, and reasoning with her since those don't work. I've concentrated on improving myself, physically and emotionally. I concentrate on being a strong, positive, cheerful masculine presence in the house. I lost some weight during the shock and panic phase of this whole thing, and I took advantage of it by hitting the gym again. I'm now seeing my abs for the first time in 20 years. I've gotten involved in a new church that started before the bomb dropped and been working on my side business. I'm looking for a new job. Career dissatisfaction was one of the things that caused my moodiness and irritability and caused her to pull away. I made it clear to her that while I am 100% committed to saving our marriage as long as she's willing to try, that I do not need her. If she decides after all is said and done to walk away, I'll take the new life she hands me and run with it. I am planning to take a long weekend next month to go off to Texas without her, just to get some time away, think, and reconnect with old friends. She's completely on board with that. She has noticed and commented on my improvements in the last couple of months. Thoughts? What does this whole situation sound like? Any suggestions on how I can handle this whole mess? Is the 180 appropriate, or should I try something else? A reality sandwich is what I need right now. I know that my response has been pretty messed up. My thought right now is that if she wants to continue exploring this guy, she does it alone. I'll give her the choice of either ending all contact with him or I go find an apartment. Update. Believe it or not, I'm not a troll. My situation was just that insane. She's cut things off with him, gave me access to all her electronics. No going out for drinks. She's still pessimistic about the state of our marriage, pre-existing issues, nothing to do with other guy, but agreed to at least 6 months before we'd even consider a trial separation. She's also open to counseling, which is a turnaround from before. We'll see what happens next. She bailed on him. On the phone, me listening in. I mailed the NC letter myself this morning. If it's a big put on, I'll know soon enough. This didn't fix our issues by a long shot, but it took care, hopefully, of a big complication. Actually, at this point saving the marriage is secondary. I've already lost 30 pounds and updated my wardrobe. Looking for a better job. If she gets her head on straight and recommits to me for real, then awesome. If she doesn't, then the next woman is going to get herself a hell of a husband. In 21 years, she has never given me a reason to mistrust her. Not once. When she did screw up, I was just winging it. The result was the insanity I wrote about in my OP. I'd rather give my marriage the best shot I can, knowing that it might not work out, than approach it pessimistically and set up a self-fulfilling prophecy. She does know that if this guy or any other pops up in the future, then I'll pull the trigger on our marriage myself. She also knows that if she were to leave me for someone else, he'd better be everything she wants, because I will no longer be an option if she realizes she made a mistake. Time will tell. One other thing. She did cut it off with OM but is very depressed right now. I expected it. She's going through withdrawal. Is the 180 still appropriate here? I wouldn't call it a change of heart so much as the cracks started to show in her fantasy. She finally started feeling remorse for his wife, and also realized that he's not really an option. A conversation she had with her best friend sealed the deal, and she finally realized there was no future with him. She doesn't see me as an option either, but that could be the withdrawal talking. I know better than to put too much stock in what she says in the midst of depression on any given day. Maybe she'll see her way clear to me again, maybe not. I don't believe this is at all over. That's why I insisted on full access to her electronics. Even if it's over with this guy, she's still in a dark hole when it comes to our future. Hopefully that's just the withdrawal talking. I talked with one of her best girlfriends today at lunch. Even she thinks my wife's out of her mind. My wife denies it, but I know she's blown up our problems. They're no worse than what any couple has to deal with. Either she's blowing up our problems to justify her misbehavior or her addiction. I likened it to heroin. To this guy is screwing with her perception of, well, everything. 180 continues as planned. One of the cracks in her fantasy started when she figured out that his wife had no clue that he was unhappy in his marriage. That made him either 1, a liar who was just trying to get in her pants, which was my opinion, or 2, a coward who would rather look outside his marriage for comfort than face his problems in his own marriage. Either way, he started to look a lot less attractive after that. We got married too young. I was in my last semester of college. This one's BS. A lot of couples get married right out of college. My parents tended to meddle in our relationship. Of all our issues, this one has the most legitimacy. I did lack backbone when dealing with my parents, especially early on. This is one of the nice guy behaviors I'm addressing. They dropped a huge grenade in our marriage a few years ago where they intimated that my wife was being harmful to our children. I knew they were full of it. Up until September she's been a great mom. She lost trust in me because in her mind I failed to defend her adequately. and later on pressured her to forgive my parents. I never agreed with my parents for 1 minute, but I didn't shut down their meddling quickly enough. I spent a lot of our marriage depressive, moody, short-tempered, whined about my job a lot. I did do that. I dislike my job and I'm looking for a new one. Basically, I acted like Billy Crystal in the beginning of City Slickers. This one's a half-truth. I will cop to being that way on occasion. I've had to do some serious addressing of my attitudes about life and career, part of my own midlife soul-searching. It's just that now to her I was that way for most of our marriage, which is a total exaggeration. When she's lucid, she acknowledges some of the things she did. Early in our marriage, she refused to move from our area and it ended up torpedoing my career plans. Her father died about a year before we got married, and she went from being a spontaneous girl who was up for a little adventure to being terrified to move more than 90 miles away from her mother. I took a few years to work through that resentment. She poured all of her energy into motherhood, to the point where all she cared about was being a mother rather than a wife. It took me forever to get her to leave the kids long enough for us to go away for a weekend. I suggested we take them to my parents for spring break 1 year, so we could have some couple time, and she nearly blew her stack. This was before the grenade mentioned above. I'm sure there's more, but that's all I can think of. Basically, what I did was own up to my mistakes where warranted. I told her there's nothing either one of us can do to erase the past. We can only move on and learn from it. She just can't seem to get past it. I told her I didn't blame her for her feelings, but she was completely responsible for her actions. With all my flaws as a husband, the one thing I never did was turn to another woman. Situation as it stands. No contact with since NC sent a week ago. She went through a deep depression for a couple of days and then started to climb out of it. I likened it to withdrawal. This weekend she told me that she wants to stay and work on our marriage. No 6 months, no trial separation talk. She's now insisting on going to counseling, so she can get to the bottom of why she fell down this rabbit hole. Given her resistance to counseling in the past, this is a pretty big turnaround. It's amazing that ever since she got unentangled from this guy, our insurmountable problems suddenly became surmountable. Is this over? Not by a long shot. I'm continuing to monitor her communications for the foreseeable future. While I still cannot find any evidence of a pa, it was sure heading that way and probably would have already happened had he actually lived in our area. I know, it's entirely possible that something's already happened, but eventually I'm going to have to go on the evidence I have. As many posters have said here, actions, not words. I have to watch her like a hawk for any changes in her story, trickle-truthing, etc. So far so good, but it hasn't been that long. Time will tell. A turning point for me was when saving the marriage became a secondary goal. The primary goal became improving me. Once I accepted that nothing I could do or say would change her mind, I stopped trying and started working on me. I got off her emotional roller coaster and detached. I started getting in better shape and updating my wardrobe. Started living life without her. It didn't change her rhetoric immediately, but she started noticing immediately that I was pulling back. It didn't diminish my desire to repair our marriage, but it became clear to her quickly that I was ready to move on without her, if that's the way things turned out. I set explicit boundaries with her and started taking away her safety net. No contact with period if she wanted to stay married to me. If I caught her contacting him, I would file for divorce myself. I made it clear that if she left me for him, then he'd better be everything she wanted. I would no longer be an option for her if she realized she made a mistake 6 months down the road. I check up on her as best I can. I have her iPhone passcode, check her browser history, check the billing records, etc. Again. So far, so good, but I'd like a way to intercept her iMessage traffic without running the risk of her catching me with her phone. Any way I can do that. Quick update. I've stopped monitoring her texts and hassling her about I was driving myself crazy with that, and I'm sure my focusing on was causing her to dig in. If she decides she wants to have a full-blown affair, I can't really do much to stop it. It'll make my decision on whether to stay with her a lot easier, though. The is not the root problem anyway, he's a symptom. We started MC this week. We both like the therapist, and to her credit the W is engaged and enthusiastic about the process. I have an appointment with an attorney tomorrow, just to consult on my rights and responsibilities, and the legal and financial ramifications if we do end up divorcing. Still working on myself, getting ripped at the gym. I started to grow a beard. I've been clean-shaven all my life, but I looked in the mirror the other day and liked how I looked with some scruff. Didn't ask my wife first, just told her I was doing it. She likes the beard. Anxiety is almost gone, thank God. I used to say I would never be the one to file for D. I don't mind being patient and giving her space to work through things, but now I can see a time where I'll decide enough limbo is enough and make the decision for her. I'd like to put her on notice that I won't put up with things the way they are indefinitely. Should I tell her that directly, or maybe bring it up in therapy if asked? It's amazing. Even as hellish as this whole thing has been, I like myself a lot more than I did a few months ago. One of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last couple of months is that I'm not responsible for anyone's emotional state or choices but my own. I screwed up things in our marriage just as she did, but she was the one who chose to get entangled with and start wondering if she should walk away from the marriage. Once I took that lesson to heart, her attacks on my worth as a husband had a lot less effect. I'm hoping during therapy she'll come to realize that our marriage issues are no worse than any other couples and better than many. She does admit to physical attraction. She used to say that she was in love with him, but she's backed off on that. According to her, she now considers him just a friend, but one that she has a lot of chemistry with and she enjoys talking to. I don't necessarily believe this, but I just can't find any evidence otherwise. I know how quickly just a friend can turn into something else, so I still keep an eye on things. It's a gray area. So far as I'm concerned, she hasn't done anything that I can't get past. To me, it doesn't really cross the line into cheating until it gets physical or the talk gets overtly dirty or romantic. So, by my definition, I have no evidence that she's cheated on me. I know that other people's definitions may vary. The big problem I have with this whole thing is that it takes emotional energy away from our relationship. His marriage is apparently not that healthy either. While he is not the primary issue in our marriage, and she is not the primary issue in his, they are both contributing to each other's marriage issues. I've been 180 with her, so I have not been challenging her much about this issue lately. I found that doing that just makes her dig in more. Marriage counseling is fair game, though, and it will be brought up in session. Strange as this sounds, my primary concern anymore is not to prevent or stop an affair. I'm past the I want to work it out no matter what stage. If she's the kind of person who's willing to cheat on me, then I no longer want her. I can't monitor her 24/7. She has ample opportunity to cheat if she wants. She always has and always will. She's just never given me reason to mistrust her before now. Not once in 19 years. If she cheats on me, I will file for divorce myself. If she does this fence-sitting of hers, I don't know where I belong in life, too long, then I'll make the decision for her and pull the trigger myself. The only thing I haven't decided is how long I'm willing to wait. It may be that when I get to the end of my rope, I'll know it. Outside of those two conditions, if she wants to continue MC and continue working on our marriage, then I'll continue with her. She is being selfish now. No matter the mistakes I've made in the past, she's the one who ultimately decided to get entangled with OM. Here's why I haven't sent her packing yet. 1. I have zero evidence that whatever relationship they had is more than a few flirty texts. I don't blame someone for their feelings, I only hold them responsible for their actions. So far as I can divine, she hasn't done anything that I can't get past. I realize that everyone has different boundaries where this is concerned. The OM did not cause our core issues. 2. She did come to me and tell me that she loves me but is unhappy. That story has not changed since day one. 3. She is actively and enthusiastically participating in MC and working with me on our relationship. 4. When all is said and done, if our marriage does ultimately fail, the only thing I want is to be able to look myself and my children in the eye and say I did everything I could, within the bounds of my self-respect. Obviously, if I run across any information that contradicts item 1, that'll change the game immensely. There's at least a couple of scenarios where I'll pull the trigger on the marriage, she just hasn't reached them yet. Story 2. I am suffering the worst of both worlds. The marriage has gone down the hill but we are still in the same house. My wife turned 50, having a midlife crisis. Apparently her New Year's resolution was to end the 22-year marriage. Last year she became close friends with a toxic woman who was divorcing her husband. On January 4th, when she got back from her parents, the hostility began and gradually became worse. As secrecy began, she locked down her computer, iPad, and smartphone and started leaving the house at 8 a.m. and coming back in the evening and simply would not talk to me. 4 weeks ago, I searched phone records and discovered a number she called every day for long periods. I called the hash, it was the toxic friend. I said sorry, wrong hash. That day I took my daughters to the Field Museum in Chicago, while having lunch. The most astonishing call ever. Wife called and screamed the most hateful things ever said. I want you gone, over and over. Hung up, called again, and then again. I held the phone away from my ear and the tables around us could hear the hatred. I sat there stunned and afraid. When people say that to you, must be concerned. Finally, we went home, walking into the house with a baseball bat to protect myself from attack. She continued to go ballistic on me and my daughters. I quickly left. She moved out, to the toxic friend, went that day to the bank and took all cash, $61,000. I control the investment accounts, but most are joint accounts. The next 3 weeks there was an occasional superficial text on matters that had to be dealt with. A week ago, she abruptly moved back. She has been advised that she needs to re-establish residence to get the house. The house is paid for. I run my business from the house, extensive files, samples. I would move immediately for my sanity, but I can't. I am going to a counselor to deal with this and have an appointment to see a lawyer next week. The hostility is severe. Her goal is to get me to move out. Next week I have to start traveling a great deal on business. I am pretty sure my kids will be okay, but still worried about my eldest. They are very angry at each other. I am also worried about her changing the locks when I am in Boston next week. She is telling mutual friends and relatives that I have been abusing her for 22 years. Of course, they all know that is BS, but could be setting the stage for drastic action. Went to see a good lawyer today. The first two were dabblers, storefront lawyers that also do divorce law. I learned how things work, that divorce can be easy or very, very hard. I prefer easy. I also realized that instead of trying to hang on and hope for reconciliation, divorce will benefit me greatly. The biggest mystery for me was how money gets split. This is actually a great time to get a divorce. My income has been diminished through the recession and is now rebounding. She wants to finish grad school, let her pay for it. I am the frugal one, she is the spender. Split the money, I can make more, I am in my prime earning years. Give her alimony on reduced earnings. Let her have the paid for house. She pays me half. With the alimony, I will have to pay on last 3 years' earnings. She simply will not be able to afford the house. Get the negativity and hostility out of my life. I called the cops. They asked if there had been a physical altercation. I said no, just threats. They said call when someone hits someone. She has been telling the whole world that I have been abusing her for 22 years. Everybody who knows us knows that is simply not true. The woman has been without a single goal in 22 years. Okay, until recently she was a pretty good mom. I am now to blame that she has not been a success. She has calmed down and now is just deeply sullen and uncommunicative. My goal is to go a lot on business trips. Absence will help my sanity. She says we go to a counselor man. I set the appointment. I don't believe she will actually go. If not, probably should file right away. I told the lawyer Friday that she had taken all of our cash. He said, what, you haven't filed for divorce yet? We had an appointment for MC. She showed up. I will give her that, but sat there stone-faced and hostile for the first 10 minutes with the counselor trying to get her to talk. Because the counselor couldn't get her to talk, she asked me what you think your wife said to her the one time they had met before. I said that she thought that I had held her back, been critical, kept her from fulfilling her dreams, kept her from getting her master's degree. While I was freely admitting my many faults, she got madder and madder. Finally, she burst free and went on a rant about how I had absolutely destroyed her life, that her lack of success and happiness was 100% my fault. It really got ugly. We both got mad, became a classic blame game. Finally, the counselor had enough with both of us and asked, do you both want a divorce? By this time, we were both ready for a divorce right then and there. It was an eye-opener. The truth is we really don't like each other. Maybe there is a glimmer of love somewhere in there. She did agree to another session next Monday. We both agreed to not talk to each other at all, unless it's about the weather or something innocuous. Apparently, she went to see a real divorce lawyer, instead of the pit bull that was telling her she would get the paid-off house and half the money. She wants to finish her master's degree and has apparently realized the realities of what she will actually get in the divorce. She wants the house, but now realizes she will have to pay me for half. The bulk of the money is in tax-protected retirement accounts that can't be touched without huge penalties. And the alimony she is likely to receive will cover approximately half of her current expenses. I am getting texts from suggesting she wants to talk about being roommates, open marriage, at next week's counseling. Economically this makes sense for her, but for me, filed for divorce yesterday, still in the same house. My office is here, files, computers, workstations, 2 employees. Moving will take some time, although not sure I should. The house is paid for. One of us will have to buy the other out. Neither of us have the funds to do it. These types of move-up houses are not selling at all. Whoever stays in the house probably will get to stay here until the house sells, which will be quite a while. Even after alimony and child support I can afford the house. She can't. She will go bankrupt supporting the high cost of this house. Weeks later, after I filed and got the ball rolling, it was a wave of relief, and now that we are doing the nuts and bolts, providing bank records, tax returns, she is starting to make reconciliation gestures. Originally, she was getting some very bad financial advice. She was being told she would get the house and half the money. Finally, her lawyer told her how it was actually going to work, that she was going to go from an upper middle-class lifestyle to a much lower standard of living. Her rage has diminished and is starting to have second thoughts. I am frustrated. She caused this whole thing and I have gone through a lot of pain and work to accept divorce, and now she is confusing the issue. This is the 3rd time in 25 years she has done this. I want the divorce, and then possibly reconcile at some point. Update. She has figured out she won't be able to buy a house. There is a lot of money, but it is almost all in certain accounts. She has been compensating by grabbing money. The divorce started by her cleaning out our savings account, $60,000. Since then, I have only put in enough money to pay the bills. She has figured a way around the roadblock by running up the credit cards. We used to pay off the cards monthly. She is close to maxing out 2 credit cards. Now she wants me to buy her out of the paid-for house. It is going to be a battle, as her lawyer is claiming it is worth far more that it will actually sell for. This will go on for a while with the struggle over the house. My lawyer is preparing a legal separation that will place her on a budget and put an end to crazy spending. My comment: the difference between the 2 story. Which ending did you like more? One leaves their partner, one stays with their partner. Which way you prefer? Comment down and we will quickly move to another lesson 2.